I fell through an internet rabbit hole last week, where I was trying to figure out what was the best and simplest way to draw clothes. And I ended up watching videos about honey falling down in slow motion, and I will show you why this makes sense, don't worry. The thing is, if you try to figure out how clothes behave, real or simulated clothes, you don't find articles or videos talking about 7 types of folds. Outside of the art circle, cloth physics are just one big thing. And I believe that drawing clothes can be just one big thing as well. So what about the folding honey? See, 8 years ago I made a video on drawing clothes that had the following thesis. Clothes have a hanging point and a resting point. That remains true, and even 8 years after making that video, the image that I have in my head about drawing clothes is that of a scarf folding it to the ground. I always thought that the motion looked very similar to something that viscous fluids do. But I'm not crazy, am I? There is something there. And when clothes bunch up, what shape does that have? And after thinking about it for a while, I realized that the answer was in front of me the whole time. All the clothes that we wear wrap around us. They are cylinders. When these cylinders fold, they create rings. And then it hit me. All folds and creases in your clothes are just a bunch of rings. Think about it. Clothes are meant to wrap around our bodies. Our legs, our arms, our torso, they're just cylinders. Take this for example. This volume here is a ring, and another ring rests on top. And the fold is just the space between the rings. Is it always 100% like this? No, and we will go over the cases where it doesn't apply, even though the exceptions create fold using the same basic premise. All folds are the result of the reaction of cloth to tension, compression, and gravity. Let me show you an example. Here I have a shirt. Here's no tension, no gravity. Now, let's hang this shirt and turn on the physics. You can see 2 things happening with the sleeves. One is that cloth gathers at the joint. This is compression. If we draw rings around the shirt, can you see how they squeeze in the compression point? Then gravity comes in. This one's easy, it just falls. Straight lines coming down from the hanging point. Now let's add a body to this shirt. Not a lot has changed, only that the sleeve wraps around the arm. Now, what if it was a long sleeve shirt? Now you see a new compression point in the joint. But now the bent arm stops the cloth from falling straight. And how does it gather? With rings. Now these are not uniform rings, because the way that they fall is not uniform either. So gravity makes the clothes fall, the arm stops the fall, so clothes gather as ring-shaped folds. So here, when you draw a fold, it's not the line that matters. What you are trying to communicate is that there is a big amount of cloth that has gathered here. You focus on the volumes you are creating. And obviously, this is all about clothes that you wear. If you want to draw something like this, well, you could you not? If we go back to the shirt, this is an exaggerated version of everything we just saw would look like. Now, maybe this is the time to talk about the type of folds that there are, but maybe you have noticed that in a certain way, I just showed you every type of fold that there is. What do I mean by this? Well, according to Marco Bucci, there are 7 types of folds. Even though I believe that they are all the same. I'm going to show you what I mean, even though I'm not really disagreeing with Marco Bucci's video. And speaking of Marco Bucci, I just found out that on top of his YouTube channel, he also has a lot of courses on digital painting that you can find at Skillshare. Skillshare is the largest learning community for creatives, with thousands of courses on illustration, film, design, and freelancing. I was amazed by the amount of courses that they have over there. Last week I was working on my foreshortening video and I found more lessons and courses that I could count. I particularly liked the course on figure drawing by Emily So, where she gives a nice intro to the basics of foreshortening. Still, looking at a long list of classes might sound overwhelming, because sometimes you just need someone to hold your hand in your education. And if that happens to you, Skillshare has now learning paths, which are curated sequential class collections to master specific skills, like becoming a freelance illustrator or mastering Procreate, which I could really use because I don't get along with Procreate at all. And if you don't get along with any particular software like I do, Skillshare now lets you search classes by software. So if I were you, I would really hurry to click on the link in my description, because the first 500 that do will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So go click and start learning. So, do you want to talk about the multiple types of folds? Let's go. Zigzag fold, rings. Pipe fold, rings. Compression folds, rings. Half lock folds, rings. Diaper fold, rings. Spiral fold, rings. In most clothes, the force between two tension points wrap around the body of a person. You can see the rings even if you're doing a sleeveless shirt. So when does the ring thing not apply? Well, one is the most basic drop fold. This is gravity unchallenged. Think of a skirt or think of a cape. Clothes just fall. Nothing is stopping gravity from doing its job. But in the cape example, there is a diaper fold, which you can see as a ring wrapping around the body. But the ring that you draw is unfinished. Half of it is invisible. This also happens when there are two tension points. While there is probably a ring of tension going around the leg in this example, you don't try to do the whole thing, you just do the part that creases more. So this is the theory of the whole thing. This is not really a video about how to draw folds and creases, but more like understanding them. And just because you get this, it doesn't mean that you're going to get it right every time. And that is where reference comes in. Javi, should we start with reference? Well, yes, but I wanted to show you what I found about clothes first, because now, when you look at the reference, you will understand what you are looking at. But we also want to use reference because clothes are designed, and we are not clothes designers. So we're going to need to use the reference. From the reference, we can get the overall shape of the clothes that we want to draw, and we will also get a good idea on the type of fabric and how it folds. Wait, clothes don't fold all the same? Well, no. And for that, I made this awesome chart. See, fabrics can go from hard to soft, and from thin to thick. What you need to know about this is simple. The thicker the fabric is, the bigger the rings will be, and the bigger the folds will be. And the harder the fabric is, the more angular the folds are going to be. Think of these videos where a 3D artist adds more polygon to a fabric. With each polygon, the softer it becomes. This is the same. Harder fabrics are more geometrical. And also, they don't always follow the flow of the body, sometimes they just hang from when they hang. So now that you know this, let's go to try and do it all at once. First, we need a body. Second, if you have reference for the clothes that you want this body to wear, get them. This will give you an idea of the type of fabrics that you're working with. Third, go for the big shapes first. Fourth, find your hanging points and your tension points. And fifth, start ringing. This is the more complicated part, but it's also the most satisfying one. You got this. It is not the easiest thing to get right. I still have a lot of problems with it. And the reference will help you to get the folds right. Because even if it's almost rings all of the time, you still want to do the right ring. Because if not, it will look like a coil of honey wrapped around your character. And now that you have drawn some clothes on your character, you may want to paint them. And if you do, I have the perfect video for you, and it is right here. So go